All right. Today is Tuesday, November 17th at 6 p.m. This is the North Hudson Public Works meeting, and I'd like to open tonight a little bit differently, just with a moment of silence in, I guess, solitude and recognition of what happened in Paris, so if you wouldn't mind. Okay, agenda for tonight's first item on the agenda is call to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the October 20th, 2015 Public Works meeting. Do we have any corrections and or discussion from the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 2015 Public Works.
Certainly may. I'll second that. Approved. Item number 3, 2015 capital project. This is Lakeview Drive, Pine Street, East Bank, Lemon Street project, where they've been going on for a long time now. It should be coming to an end, I think. I noticed we have another payment coming up on the agenda, so let's just open with the project update.
Okay, so basically we have everything completed out there. Final lift of asphalt was installed. We did the restoration. Mark and myself, along with the contractor, did a walkthrough on Friday of last week, generated a punch list, sent that off to them Friday afternoon, and I understand that they were in here yesterday and completed all that work, so all the punch list items that were noted. So at this stage, you know, the project is completed. We do have a pay app in front of us. We would still hold some retainage over the winter months just because the restorations, you know, was towards the end of the season here, so we would definitely want to have something for leverage, you know, if there's some fixing up that we need to do with the restoration.
Is that 5%?
We might take it down a little bit more. You know, we'll actually see what the, you know, the amount was for the restoration for the whole project, and, you know, gonna figure out a number that we would feel comfortable with. I will bring up, we do have one concern from a resident that came up here on the end of Lakeview Drive. Kind of been talking with the gentleman, and he's here tonight. Over the last, I'd say last couple 2 to 3 weeks is when this surfaced up. Kind of all came to head when we installed the riprap on the end of the cul-de-sac down there. The hammerhead turnaround is when everything surfaced. We have had, you know, some discussions out in the field. I have talked to Total on trying to get some, you know, some costs of what we were originally looking at doing. So
What's the
concern is, you know, with the drainage that's
Yep.
going down into that corner, that was, you know, a lot of discussion that we went through during the design part of it back in February, March of this year. We did look at some options, you know, in regards to, you know, putting kind of a rain garden on the end of the hammerhead.
Yeah.
We talked about that in March, at the March Public Works meeting. This is a copy of the meeting minutes.
Yep. No, I recall talking about it.
Yeah. So
the issue is poor drainage, or what's? I recall there was a large. Sometimes it would pond down in that area.
yeah,
Right.
it's the street, the way it was set up is, you know, all the drainage ends up down on the end of that street. And that was one of our big concerns when we went through the design part of it. That's why we didn't want to increase the width of the street. You know, we had, you know, a public informational meeting. We had, you know, a bunch of residents that came in and had a bunch of concerns, and we went through that whole process. And you know, based on what was decided at that time, is, you know, the village residents and attendants felt installing a rain garden was not suitable and felt the original drainage plan was more ideal. So we left it the way it was, you know, drainage wise. And I have, you know, some photos here that I can share with you of what it, you know, what it used to look like before
Has
construction.
something changed? No? What?
What's the problem?
Is it ponding or?
And we can have
Please-
David
please.
step in
Yeah, please, go ahead.
to tell us what his concerns are.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to talk, and
So-
thank you, Mark, for telling me the meeting.
Name and address, please?
David Sweeney, 709 Riverside Drive, North.
Okay.
You've owned the property for 3 years. And I wasn't aware of the drainage aspect of the work that was being done on the top road until the riprap was delivered and dumped in the hole, and I went up to the top of the bank and saw it. And that night I gave a message for Mark regarding my concerns about what would happen the next time it rained. From my perspective, the design of the drainage has been modified down the street to alleviate drainage off the sides of the street to the residents on the west side. And it's been tapered in, concentrated into the riprap gully, as I call it. And the gully extends down under my perimeter fence and onto the top slope of my property. Today, I don't know if you would consider today's rainfall significant or not, but I have a video taken this afternoon of it cascading onto my property, carrying mud, slurry, branches, leaves, pooling in one side of my garden, filling my implement shed floor with water, soaking everything in there, going into the foundation, under the foundation, and into my garage. And today it has caused some damage to some storage construction material I had. In the 3 years we've been here, it's never been that bad. Never had that situation. And I was out there for about 2 hours this afternoon digging trenches to try and direct the water down a side of my property that may not cause the damage it's having. But if today's rainstorm, I don't consider that to be a significant rainstorm. If we have a significant storm, my fear is that the bank behind my property will saturate. Trees will uproot. They're already bearing the roots as the water rushes under. And I could have a slip of land or something.
So Kevin, what, so one, I want to go down and have a look at it myself, right?
Absolutely.
This weekend, if you wouldn't mind. I'd like to come down and have a look. So prior to the construction, it was fine, right? So we've essentially, it sounds like, redirected the flow, hoping that the riprap would handle it, but there's apparently an issue. Is that,
If you look at, you know, the photos of the, you know, the before, I guess the first one, you can see how the road was tipped to the east as you went down on the south end. And that's, you know, we had the concern from the resident that has the driveway that goes down, you know, has a garage off the backside there. He built his driveway up. And you can see, I mean, that's where the drainage used to go before, based on the existing pictures. And we had noticed that there was some somebody had been putting some cement blocks in there, some bits of asphalt, all kinds of things to try to take care of the erosion that was happening
Yep.
down there. That's where we
And
thought,
this is where he's talking about where the water was cascading.
he's talking about, on the page, let's see here, that would be this one here.
Yes.
Yep, coming down the slope.
Okay, but that's the top of it, right?
Yep,
right?
that's
So
the
it's
top.
going under the
Looking down,
fence,
yeah.
it's
Yep.
hitting the riprap,
Yeah,
it's
Yep.
running down, hitting the riprap,
Yep.
going under the fence. I'm assuming your property is the one directly to
That's
the
correct.
east of it, maybe?
To the south.
South?
Directly
Okay.
to the south. So this is where, the water,
Yep.
has and, before construction and after construction, this is where everything is directed. One of the things that I, did notice when I was out there last week, we did find that there was some black fabric underneath,
Mhm.
the existing ground that's out there, and there's a picture here, and you can kind of see the outskirts of that in there also. So it makes me think that there was some work done there in the past that, obviously there's been a,
Well, it
This
could
has
have
been
been,
on
could have been a silt fence from who knows what, I mean,
yeah, this is actually, laid on the ground.
yeah.
That's all existing, so it makes it seem like there was something that was going on, for quite some time. Some of the things that we talked about there, out in the field is, one thing that, we could address, going down the slope. And again, this is on private property. This is outside, the road right away. But we could continue on with some riprap down where it's cascading down. So basically from the riprap that's up above, continue, that down to the toe of the slope. And then down below, again, this would be on his property, we would try to create some kind of sort of like what we were looking at before up on top. We'd have like a little depression, like a rain garden. And then from there, we could either, direct it both directions, to the east and to the southeast, or to the east. When you look at, after the rainfall event that happened here last Wednesday night into Thursday, you can kind of see where the water channeled some towards your garage and some to the east. It flares out.
So there was a drainage there prior,
Yep,
right? I mean, it's pretty clear from the pictures.
yep.
This has made it worse.
yeah, we've got a situation here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any disagreement. There's a
Yeah.
situation here. We need to figure out what we're gonna do with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that that's where we wanted to bring it in front of you.
Yeah.
I've already been out there, talked with Total.
Yep.
That's what our original plan was, to go in there, do some riprap, do a depression down there. And I think David has some current concerns with, moving forward with that. It's about $4,000 to $5,000 is what he's telling me, is what it would be, because it is somewhat difficult to get down there. You'd have to, take the fence out,
Yep.
you know.
So concerns?
Well, my concern certainly from the volume of water that's coming over there. I think our initial discussions about some form of catchment pond and soaking scenario, it will not work. I believe it will overwhelm it. And the ground is becoming like a sponge now. And walking on it, you can feel it all along the base of my slope. And I really do fear that it's going to let loose. So I think, my description of what's happened is that, yes, there was drainage, and yes, it must have been coming over the edge of the top of my property. But what's been done is, for quite a long way up the road, it's been concentrated all into this one gully. And I don't know what the volume of flow is now, but
Yeah.
it's overwhelming when you see the video.
So, Kevin, you're suggesting for about $4 or $5 grand we could put riprap down there, or what's?
Yeah, we
what's-
would,
What's your recommendation as the engineer?
well, one of our, what we looked at is, you know, we would, on the end of where that.
Let me interrupt, before you
Go
go any
ahead.
further, I just want to understand, riprap would slow the water moving forward? Is that the purpose of riprap?
That's based, yes, that's all it is. It's
It
for, to
just
slow the water
slows it.
down, you know, so we don't get the erosion that was happening there
Okay, but the
before.
water then still goes where?
It'll still
Oh.
continue through.
Yeah,
Yep, it's basically to protect the slope of
okay, I
the,
apologize, I just wanted to
No, no,
understand,
no.
the use of riprap
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
designed to do what?
Yep,
yep,
prevent erosion essentially.
protect, yeah, protect, yeah.
Right.
Prevent any erosion. So we would look at up on the top section, we would try to put, you know, like a riprap berm
Yeah,
underneath the fence so that we could create some kind of, maybe like a little pool in there. And then it would overflow that and cascade down the slope. And that's where we would put the riprap in. Down to kind of where it flattens out.
Okay, but water overflowing that and going down the slope, I'm just trying to stay with you,
Sure.
would still create erosion. Moving water creates erosion, right?
And that's where you would put the riprap down the slope to protect the bank. And that's on, that would be,
this one here.
yes,
Yeah.
that would be
So you're
on,
talking riprap, not just up here where we see some existing riprap, but actually down this gully?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what you're talking about?
Yep.
and then we would.
There's some, I mean, you can see there's some stones there now.
Yeah. Like, you know, and then we would create some, you know, a little depression area in there, just like
Down in here or at the top?
at the bottom.
At the bottom.
And that would be on private property.
And your concern is that'll be overwhelmed?
Yes.
Yeah.
And from there, it will flow down, and the next stop would be my neighbour's property.
To
Did
the
we
east.
anticipate the amount of water that we were gonna run down this road?
That's why we left the road the same width as what it was.
Yeah.
We went through that whole discussion back
Yeah.
in,
So I thought at one point we
February.
talked about putting a drain in there.
we originally looked at this back
See
in
that?
February, at the March Public Works meeting, and I can hand these out, but you can read at the bottom. So we had a bunch of residents there, we kind of went through the whole
Yeah.
discussion, and you can see on the second page that village residents and attendants felt installing a rain garden not suitable, not the solution, and felt the original drainage plan was more ideal.
So the road remained the original width, I agree with that.
Yep.
But in addition to that, did we not put on the side of the road an impervious area that was designed to be catching the water as it was coming down?
We didn't put any ditches or anything in, we just,
And there's a gravel shoulder or,
we put black dirt all the way up to the edge of the asphalt.
oh,
You can go out there and look at it, but it's
Okay.
black.
Yeah, but I thought part of the plan was, to Daryl's point, we had talked about, because you were gonna have a slope from center, right?
Mhm.
And you didn't wanna put ditches in. So there was going to be I thought it was to your point, an impervious
yeah, I thought there was,
that would allow it to soak in rather than run down.
yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah, we looked at doing, you know, this rain
Yeah.
garden down in the corner here. Again, it's
so
gonna,
here's my concern, right? You put the riprap in. We've had an inch of rain over the past 24 hours. It's been a steady rain. It's not been a downpour. Well, there have been a few downpours. This morning it was pretty
last-
heavy.
Yeah, last week
Right.
we had a pretty big rainfall event.
So you put riprap in, it's still gonna cascade over,
Yep.
right? The water's gonna go in the same direction.
Yep.
Are we solving anything by doing that? That's my question. And are there any unintended consequences of doing it?
again, that's why we looked at this very detailed when we went through the design part, because, you know, that's why we didn't want to increase the width of the road, because we
Right.
knew this was gonna be a very sensitive item, and unfortunately, there is no storm sewer back there to hook up to anything. It's,
So I also thought at one point we talked about putting a sewer in under the road to bring it down the backside where it ponds anyways. Do you recall that? There was discussion about like way at the bottom down there. I'll go back and look.
because that should be in the meeting minutes, or I would think.
Okay, all of those, no disrespect, all of those things that we're talking about now are interesting.
Yeah,
But it's
we
all
solved
after the fact.
problem, right, yeah.
I mean, now we're at where we're at.
Yeah,
The
right.
project is completed, the road is in,
Yep,
and we're seeing some evidence that there is an abundance of water that's arriving at the end of that road and creating a situation, which is clearly
Just-
demonstrated.
just so everybody knows, I mean, when we were in construction, we had some pretty big rainfall events that took place,
Right.
and
Right,
Everything-
I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just saying, we've obviously got a situation.
yep.
So is riprap gonna solve it?
It'll protect the gully that's going down to the
Yep.
toe of the slope. It will protect that. It, you know, and there was a effort there before where people were putting some rocks and some types of things down there to try to alleviate that.
Definitely gonna slow the water down. That's the biggest thing you want, is you want the water to actually move slower down the hill instead of, right now, there's nothing that's slowing it down, it's just getting down the hill with
Yeah.
riprap will slow it down.
So we actually changed its slow down, or because of the street improvements, we increased the water flow?
No, I'm saying, for now, it'll start slowing the water down once you place riprap in there.
We were trying to make an improvement because we noticed that there was erosion happening on the end of that street already. So that's why we came in and put the riprap in. That was the whole goal of it. It wasn't anything more than that, erosion control. So that you wouldn't jeopardize, you know, if you start creating a channel on the end of that, you know, where the blacktop is, it
Yeah.
could undermine it over time. So that's
Yep.
why we wanted to put
Yeah.
the riprap in there, to protect that. So. And that's where everything surfaced, was right
But the
after.
riprap would go on his private property.
It would, if
Yeah.
you wanted to move forward with that, and I think the last time we had met, we were in agreement.
Yeah, so
That's-
what's your thoughts on,
Well, yes, just a couple of points about the previous conversation. When we had the meeting with Mark and the project manager from Cedar Corp at the site, he said to me that they were going to build a sort of a berm on the north side of the street because people on that side had got flooding underneath their garden sheds. The other thing he said, and he showed me the drawing, that the road was specified with a 2% grade from the crown
Yep.
to each side. That is not the case. And you can see it with the flow of water, and you can see it with a spirit level. The discussions I had with Kevin regarding slowing the water down, at that time I thought that might work, but after today, I'm still going to have that increased amount of water on my property, and I don't know where it's going to go. I can't have it coming into my buildings.
so what's the crown slope?
It's 2% down to a certain distance, and then it slopes to the one side where the gully is. It's no different than what it was. If you look at the existing photo, you can see how the road was crowned or sloped to the east, so it, you know, it got into the drainage channel down below. And we mimicked what was out there before.
Why is there more water now? I still don't understand that.
There's, that's why we left the street width the same width.
Or you don't have any more surface area.
Yeah, where's the extra water coming from?
Well, it's because the water used to go either side of the street.
No, it doesn't.
And as you said, the neighbour had water flying down his driveway as well in severe storms. And all of that has been corrected. I mean, as a drainage project, it's hugely successful. But I now have 100% of the rain that falls on the street from its highest point coming onto my property. And that was not the case before. And if you do look at the top of my property, the rocks and the blacktop that you mentioned, I've seen that as well. And it's deposited along the full length of my property. My neighbour at the top said, yes, the water used to flow all over here. So what was coming over the full width of the property. And now it's just one channel, and it's running out, I don't know what gallons per minute. But
Yeah.
it's taking off as it comes out.
That's where it was directed before, right? I mean, there's some things we can do. You know, we could, you know, along this side through here, we can create little diversion channels out it, you know, off to the west. But if we do that, you know, are we gonna have issues with the residents on the
Yep.
west side?
So I think what I want to do is have more discussions with you, Kevin and Mark, right, about
Sure.
what should be done. So I'm not dismissing your claim at all, right? But this is the first I'm hearing about it. So I'd like to discuss a little bit more, maybe offline, where you think we should go with it. And then it sounds like maybe initially some riprap to at least slow it down. Right, but then if that doesn't solve the problem, or if we have additional liabilities with it, how do we address those?
There is one option that I looked at. What it entails is we'd have to get some easements and things off to the east. You know, I don't know if those people would be receptive to that or not. But that would entail putting a pipe in to the east, all the way down to there's
Yep. Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of efficiency, I think we've got a clear consensus that we've got a situation that we need to deal with.
Yep.
None of us also are engineers.
Nope.
So for us to continue to sit here and talk about this, it's three well-meaning guys, but we're not engineers. I think what we ought to do, I think you're right. I think you ought to direct our Public Works Supervisor and our engineer to look at this, bring some very clear recommendations. You ought to be involved in it, and we need to say we've got a problem, we need to fix it.
Yep. And probably sooner rather than later.
yeah.
Pretty soon it'll be white stuff, but
There's another concern of mine. I mean,
Yeah.
when the snow is cleared, it's going to be put into that gully. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
in the spring, I'm going to own that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you wanted to watch the video. It's just on a minute long. I think it would give you a clear idea of what I'm talking
I think I
about.
already have the idea of what it looks like.
And it's
Yeah.
not sustainable.
Yeah.
The amount of water that's
Yeah.
coming, the bank will not
Can you
sustain.
email it?
I could do, yes.
Great.
Yeah, that's a good idea, if you wouldn't mind.
Do to yourself, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
then I'll distribute it. Yep. Okay, thank you for bringing it up.
Absolutely.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain that you will.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, other project updates.
The only other thing, yeah, that's it for project update.
Okay.
So the only other thing we have then is, at my end, would be the payment this would be, payment request number 3.
Yep.
So,
3B?
yeah, so what we're looking at is, we still would be holding the 5% retainage. and that amounts to $22,795.19. So with this pay request, we'd be recommending an amount of $42,845 or $485 for payment number 3.
So, we need a,
Mr. Chairman, I move approval and recommendation to the village board to finance the, or to approve the payment request.
Second.
since it is a spending item, we have to have a roll call.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so moved. Will, this will go then to the December board finance and then to the full board for approval.
Mr. Chairman, we missed 3A, I think, here. Or I've got something off the website as 3.
So we have a
Three-
revised
Maybe it's
agenda.
3C.
Let me have a look.
Make sure you're looking at the revised agenda.
So we got 3A, project update, 3B, pay request, 3C, Lakeview Drive, Pine Street Vision Triangle discussion, possible action. Is that what we were just discussing?
Yeah, I think Mark's got some information
Okay,
on
she's
that.
got something out there called From Public Safety to us. That was listed as 3A.
That's, yeah, I got that information here. That actually will be part of, we put it under project update instead of keep adding to the thing, so. So once we
Bring
get,
it up
once we
later.
get done with Kevin, then,
Yep.
Okay,
once we get done with C, then we'll go
Yeah,
back
the
to
light.
update and we'll talk about.
sounds
that.
good.
Okay, so we've covered the update, the pay request. We've talked about Lakeview Drive, Pine Street North Vision Triangle. We have not.
Have not.
Okay.
Basically, all you should have a sheet like this somewhere in front of you.
Yep.
Well, cutting right to the chase, I clearly understand the idea of a vision triangle, because a couple of years ago, I had 2 beautiful trees that the village suggested I take down, strongly suggested I take down, and I did. So I clearly understand the vision triangle. My question with respect to this location is, why are we not enforcing it?
Basically with, I think now with the project and everything else, with pine trees that have been cut up, but everything else, now his biggest thing is get rid of the bushes that are in that area.
Mhm.
Dealing with that certain resident we've had
Mhm.
problems with. Basically, he's gonna be, we'll have it staked, and have them send letters and tell them, okay, this is what you're gonna have. During the, normally this would be something where we'd make sure he removed before spring, or once it can be
So
transplanted.
this is 712 Pine?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't ever freaking go away, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's the ongoing,
All right, so I think we know the procedure.
But I was told to put
Letters.
it on the agenda, so. that's what I
Yeah,
did.
no, so letters gotta go out.
Yep.
Right? And then
And
it's-
actually, at the same time we're there, we'll also do the other side too, to make sure that both sides are
Yep.
Yeah.
in compliance.
So then my question is, the letter goes out, right, so it's clearly a safety issue. Right, how long does he have to comply, and then if he doesn't comply, do we come in and cut it down and charge? Or,
That's why it's normally done.
yeah, right, I mean, I've had letters in the past about my vegetation in the back of my property. I went out and I mowed it. So, send a letter, if he doesn't respond, fix the problem, charge him. Any further discussion? It's pretty
no,
straightforward,
this is
right?
pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Agreed.
all right.
Now, the next two things, going back to the project update. First, you're gonna see something that basically this came back from public safety to us. You should have a memo, actually, you guys got it sent to you. The memo looks like this.
So are we on,
It's up, it's on the website under public
yeah, I
works.
just want to make sure we're all following the same agenda. So I got an agenda emailed from Melissa today. This is revised agenda.
Yep.
And I've got item number 4,
No, well, that.
C4
this-
skid loader?
Yeah, well, basically what this is still practically under project update.
Okay.
I was just told to put it under update, yes, you know. that's
Okay.
where it
This
is.
was 3A
Okay,
at one point.
Yes.
or
all right,
3C.
gotcha. So we're on
Kinda makes it difficult when we bounce.
We're
around.
on winter parking ordinance.
No, we're not, we're on,
We're on a public safety
We're on-
letter.
we're still on capital projects.
All right, I gotta go back.
3A.
Someplace in you're gonna find a memo from me regarding a streetlight request at the end of
Yep,
Lakeview
got
Drive.
it.
Okay. Now, basically, this came from public safety. They sent it to us because of the cost, what it would be to install a streetlight in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the attached.
Yep. So public safety, chief is saying it needs to go in?
Well, they're saying, basically, talking to chief, there's two things. There is a street light not far up from the street, but now with the new street light heads, there ain't illumination that there used to be.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is either we have XL install another street light at the end, somewhere around between that drainage swale we have now in the hammerhead.
Yep.
Somewhere in that area, or else we put some kind of reflective barrier basically to keep people from driving into that drainage swale. Those are the two options.
Actually, they were asking for both at the public safety meeting. A neighbor came up and one of his kids fell down in that 5
Well,
foot
that was,
thing.
but basically what
swale.
the walking on the rocks has, that's not what we're, basically what the chief and I had discussion with was just basically to keep cars out of there.
Hmm.
Right.
When kids
Right,
play
right.
on rocks,
Yeah, they're gonna fall and hurt themselves. Can't help that. So is there a safety issue? I'm looking at this from Mark, right? He's recommending installing a pole. My question is it safety or is it a nice to have?
I mean, it is dark down there.
Yeah.
Very dark. I mean, I
On
think,
the hammerhead.
yeah, for
If
turning
it's
movements,
safety, we gotta address it.
yeah, for turning movements, I think it makes some sense to put a street light down there. I mean, you do have one mid-block, but that's the last one.
Okay, so discussion. My only concern is, it's easy to want to have things as a resident, thinking you should have them as a resident versus safety.
How far is the nearest street light from this proposed location?
It is,
Power pole up.
400 feet. 400 feet to the north.
That's a considerable distance. So it obviously is dark down there.
Yeah, it is fairly. Yeah.
Well, with the new LED for sure. Right.
Yeah, you don't have the globes.
No.
Well, I guess to your point then, I would see it as a public safety
Yep.
issue.
No, I agree, and I don't think Mark would have brought it to us
Yes,
if he didn't think
right.
it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he said his own guys said it was really dark. with
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
When I got the request, I took it to the chief, and then basically he had Sergeant Bowles, who was the night officer, go down there and check it out.
so my next question naturally is funding for it. Does this come out of safety or?
No, it'd be added to our streetlights.
Had to ask.
This would be installed by Excel and they would bill us for it? Is that what I'm understanding this narrative?
Correct.
Works.
And the cost is between $1,500 and $2,000 for Excel to install the street light, and then whatever their cost would be, they would bill us.
Yep.
Are there gonna be, cause you're gonna have to run power down there. Right?
That's all part of
That's
it.
all part of
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm seeing that that's part of it.
Right,
That's the
but
total cost.
are we gonna have residents coming in going, why are we running? I thought we were done.
Well, it's pretty easy to run power, you just a little trencher.
It happens all the, yeah, it does happen. a lot.
Alright. So there's a lot of residents here at the last board meeting that were
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend to the village board that we engage Excel Energy to install the recommended power pole at the end of this street at a cost not to exceed $2,000.
Second?
Second.
Since it is spending, roll call, we'll start with Daryl.
Yes.
Yes. All right, it will go to the December finance and then to the full board for approval.
Second item, basically will not require any action from you. I'm giving you this for information. There's an email that came through, you should all have a copy, regarding parking on that Pine Street now that it's been curbed and guttered. And basically, the police, I met with the chief on this, he's gonna have his officers look into this, an officer look into it, and, possibility that we may do signage or one, parking on one side only.
So because we put curbs up, they're not able to pull over on the grass?
Some of the cars are not used to kind of drive up into their yards further, and now they're staying down on the curb and gutter.
It's dangerous territory we're getting in here. Parking ordinances. God forbid, Daryl. Are they gonna enforce it? That's my next question. I mean, that's what they're asking us about parking winter ordinance, who's gonna enforce it? So, being the smart you know what I am, I have to ask the question, who's gonna enforce it? It actually helps my cause, so yeah, I'm for it.
If signage is up, that would fall on the police, right?
Yeah, so what side is the parking
That
happening
was,
on?
the police department's gonna determine that.
Yeah,
I left that up to them.
yeah, okay.
Our discussion
It's all good
ends.
information. This is the same problem they had, or these are the same complaints or concerns they had earlier with the garbage truck and the fire trucks not being able to get down and,
Yep.
right. So Mark's gonna have to decide which street gets the parking and which it doesn't. All right. I've completely lost track of
Okay.
Skid
Now we're
loader
on four.
exchange.
skid loader. Finally, we got the 4.
Yes.
All right. Item 4, skid loader exchange discussion, possible recommendation.
All should have got a memo or a issue statement.
And I forget, Mark, was this in the budget or not?
This is actually, we had it in the budget and everything else, and Gloria will be part of, actually, she said we can get the funds. We had it in the budget under capital replacement equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come out of undesignated funds,
Okay,
so that's where it's scheduled to come out.
got it. Discussion? Recommendation?
Well, this is a program that we followed for some time with respect to this particular piece of equipment. And it seems to have worked out well because it's kept us out of maintenance cost, tire replacement. I'm persuaded that it's a efficient and economical way to utilize this piece of capital equipment.
It'll come up again in 17 then? Is it every 2 years?
Yeah, every 2 years.
Yep. So I think that was a recommendation.
Well, if you're ready to move to that, I will.
Yes, let's move
I
to
will,
that.
Mr. Chairman, I will recommend exchanging the 2013 New Holland skid loader for a new 2015 skid loader from Value Implement at a cost not to exceed $5,500.
I will second that. Since it is spending, we have another roll call. We'll start on this end.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. It'll go to finance and full board for December. Item number 5. Mark?
Again, you should have had a financial issue statement that came to you. Basically, what it came down to is all the other information you had. Basically, this committee requested that the village administrator arrange to have somebody do an appraisal on the property, which she has a person set up to do that. Cost is gonna be roughly $700. They're saying it's gonna take a couple weeks to a couple months to get it done.
Okay,
I met with Gary Zapp and everything else, and we were talking about options while we're waiting and everything else, and basically Gary agreed to extend the current lease for 1 year at the same rate paying.
so I thought we talked about are we committing to a year's lease or a month-to-month lease?
No, this would be a 1 year, that's what was requested.
But at the
by-
same cost,
At the same cost.
same cost.
And that way, because the village administrator told me that she actually believes that the board, especially the finance committee, needs to sit and weigh its options on how it's going to purchase
Right.
the property if it comes to that point.
Yep. So for level set, right, we discovered that in the contract after X amount of years, we had the right to purchase the property. So we've got a appraisal coming, and then we're gonna look at it from a financial perspective. Does it make more sense to actually purchase the property? Or does it make more sense to continue the month or the yearly lease on the property? With pros and cons on both sides, maintenance being one of them, right? Budget being another,
That's always.
and the ability to actually, but at the end of the day, what we really need to look at, I think, is, okay, we're spending, $32.50 a month, right? If the appraisal comes back and we could purchase the property, and, at the end of the day, it all shakes out to the same amount from a maintenance and a finance perspective, then it would, I think, make sense for the village to seriously consider buying the property.
Which is a future discussion. Right
Yep.
now, in front of us is the extension of the lease at a status quo. I think that's fair to both parties while we do our due diligence on
Yeah.
whether or not we're gonna move in that direction. So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend to extend the existing lease with Zappa Development Corporation for 1 year at the existing rate of $3,250 a month.
Which is $39,000 a year.
I'm sorry, I missed something here. Why for 1 year?
Because
'Cause-
during that 1 year period of time, we're going to get an appraisal on the property. We're going to do the due diligence on whether we not want to enter into a longer lease or try and negotiate a purchase, one or the other.
It's gonna take us a year to do that?
Well, the appraisal is at least 2 months out. And I think Gary wants to know that somebody's gonna be a tenant in the building.
Yep.
So we've normally had a 5-year lease. We're
I thought-
pulling that back to only 1 year. That's my
Thought we could
recommendation.
go though month to month when we exercised or considered exercising this option.
Well, that would take the agreement of both parties.
I thought it was in there. That's what I meant. Wasn't that in the paperwork, that if he got us a number, that we would be on a month to month until, obviously it's not indefinite.
No, and that's the thing, is you can't have somebody go for a month, you don't wanna. Basically, he's agreed to that now by just extending the lease for a year.
Second. I just wanted to make sure I
Yeah,
understood.
no, put yourself in Gary's shoes, right?
Yep.
I get it. So, there's a second. It is, once again, a spending item, so we'll start with Daryl.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, so moved, goes to full board finance for December. Item number 6.
Basically, on this, I was instructed by the committee to contact some of the seven neighboring communities that have a similar ordinance to what the no parking ordinance we were looking at. And basically what you have is the reply received back from the 4 responses from Baldwin, Hammond, Osceola, and Somerset.
So what I saw in there was most of the municipalities said initial was some resistance to it from residents, but overall it was a good thing. Right, some of them said, yeah, it's more of a safety than it is a cost saving, and then some of them said, yeah, we're saving 3 or 4 grand a year by not having to go back and replow. So what I would like to do, Mark, is I want you to send me the full recommendation, right, in an email. I'm not sure if I agree with the initial recommendation because I think it was just a ordinance that went into effect from November to March without any snowfall. Right, so I want to look at it again and see if we need to put something in there, right, relating to a snowfall event, and then they kick in, rather than just from a date to a date.
I don't think I agree with that. Community talk I've had at different communities, everything else, if you start doing that, it gets way too complicated. It's easier just to have it from this month,
Okay,
this
well,
month.
send it to me, and then we can talk. I'd be curious to the other committee members what your thoughts on it are.
Well, I think we need something specific so that we've got one item that we're looking at and then take that to a public hearing and get the feedback. And I think I agree with Mark in terms of the complexity of the issue. I would like not to have the ordinance. I'd like people to
Right.
do it themselves.
Yeah.
But we've already talked about that.
It's not gonna happen.
But what we have here in front of us now, Daryl, is an issue.
We have an issue. We need to fix it.
Discuss and
We need to fix it, yeah.
Right.
But to your point, let's get a proposed
Yeah,
ordinance,
let's discuss
and,
it.
and then let's take it to a public
Right.
hearing and discuss it.
Yep. So I may have to move my cars. Right. I'm actually an interested village resident in this piece of it, so I think it needs to be done, but I think we need to think about how it's done. So-
You want me to do a proposed ordinance?
Yeah,
and send
I
this
just want to
you, or
see
send it
it.
to the
And send it,
committee?
no, send it to the committee. Yep. I just want to see, read, digest, read through these emails a couple more times, and then
Yep.
we can.
I think
decide
we've
what-
got the data and the information to come up with a proposal.
Yep.
And we'll deal with the proposal.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, special item number 7, retaining walls on Riverside Drive, discussion possible recommendation.
In front of you, you have some photos actually there in front of Ted.
I have a question before we move forward. In anticipation of discussing this, I did drive down and look at these two situations this afternoon, so I did have a chance to view them. The wall at 922 Sally's Alley, my goodness, that is a mess. Here's my question. Is that wall on somebody's property and it collapsed? Whose wall is that
Yeah.
fell down?
This is the wall that's in question.
Yep.
It's not in village right of way.
Right.
Village right of way is back here. There's only a small 2-foot section right in village right of way. What it was installed during the 1990 project. And now, what it is.
Who installed it?
It was installed by the village,
For
by the village
Do
contractor.
we know this for sure?
village project.
Do we have proof showing we installed it? That's it,
Actually,
right
shows
there.
here is
Yeah,
the
with-
as-built for the project.
Yeah.
Shows the
I've seen
install.
as-built before that weren't exactly accurate, I must.
Stevens
It was
engineered.
installed, it matches all the other retaining walls on the project, or on the rest of
Okay.
the project.
So 1990, we,
1990, so it's 25 years old.
yep,
What it is, it actually sits on 922 Sally's Alley's property, but they gave an easement to 1004 Riverside Drive.
Mhm.
It's their driveway access.
Mm-hmm.
yep,
Apparently back during the 90 project, there was an old existing wood retaining wall in those areas that were removed, and then concrete retaining walls were stuck in. Block retaining walls were put in. What happened is now, about 60-foot gap of this wall has collapsed.
That was during that heavy rainfall event.
Initially, we received a call about 2 weeks ago when I was on vacation that this wall was apparently leaning. Being I'll take a look at it, I did not get the message. But now, during this heavy rain we had last Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, well, sometime Thursday it must have came down, because we didn't actually get the calls from the two residents until
So,
Friday morning, one Friday afternoon.
Well, I can see how, I can clearly see, when I walked it, I can clearly see how water could saturate that and cause the deterioration over time and the wall would come down. But it's also pretty clear that the water that is saturating that over time was not coming off from the street because there isn't any way for the water to come down that street and then make a 180-degree turn and come back up the driveway. So it's pretty clear it's not water off the street.
Yeah. Street grade.
Right.
To do that anyway, even if the driveway.
Right.
Yeah. Water going.
I thought that was gonna be the issue, that water was coming off the street, but clearly it isn't.
It's got pretty good, the grade on the street, you can
Right.
see in the profile, it's
Right.
pretty,
Right.
pretty steep, so.
The thing I just learned that I didn't know is that that was installed by the village.
well, so
of
let's
the street
discuss that
project,
for a minute,
Yeah.
right? Even if it was, it's been 25 years, right? How long do we have ownership of that? Forever?
Well,
Forever?
no, I was gonna say, do we even have ownership
That's
of
where
it?
I'm going, right?
That's what I would have asked.
That's where I'm going, because I look at it and it looks like to me, I mean, I'm assuming this is the wall that's collapsed, right?
No, it's this one, over on this
On
side.
the other side.
Yeah.
So it's not even up against the,
It's on the
No, it's
lower
not this
side.
This one is in the village right away.
You don't see this one, it's
Wow.
over here on this
Oh.
side.
That one is
Yeah, yeah.
actually,
Yeah, the lower side.
this is
Yeah.
it,
It's here.
yeah. This wall's actually.
It's on this corner.
it
You
looks
don't
like
see
that,
it.
it's on the
This
other
is a picture
side.
of it?
There you go.
This is the collapsed
There,
wall.
it's
Yeah.
like this.
Okay, got
These are
it,
the collapsed walls.
There.
got it, got it, got it, got it.
Okay, so that's the
Yeah.
street right here.
Well, it's a driveway.
Driveway.
Here's our street.
Okay.
It's the driveway up
Yeah,
to this
I
property.
see your point.
Yep.
There's no way it could have went
No,
this way.
obviously the water didn't
Yeah.
come down and turn 180 degrees, and go up the
Right.
driveway. I mean, this clearly is a mess. And I was trying to figure out whose
Right.
property is it on?
Right,
And whose wall is it?
right, right. Just because we installed it, no, I could go back and say, well, we probably shouldn't have been installing a wall on that side to begin with. Right, it's a
I don't know.
driveway.
I don't know how to go back to 1990 and answer that question. I don't know.
That's a problem, now, it's
Yeah.
around that.
All right.
Right,
Oh, yeah, it's before us.
right. And you can't, I mean, again, right, it doesn't, this makes it even clearer to me because it's not any structural integrity issues with the road itself, right? My inclination is, I'm not sure we've got any responsibility to fix it, as much as the resident's not gonna wanna hear it, right? But we've got many other things in the village that need fixing that are our responsibilities. If this isn't our responsibility, granted, it was put in long before I ever got here, but if it's not our responsibility, then we shouldn't be offering up to pay to have it fixed.
I guess my only thought is do these residents have some paperwork that says it is our responsibility from 1990?
Yeah, well, neither one of these residents actually lived there.
Right.
They're in the
Okay.
project themselves.
All right.
And the thing, you know, and so none of us were here either, basically, but meeting with both of them, I met with the owner of this property the other day, or yesterday. I've had conversation with this project, both of them say, well, it's village's wall, you guys replace it or fix it. And I told them, well, we're gonna have to do some looking into it, and some committees are gonna have to discuss it. Basically, what this committee has said, is the same thing I've said, Gloria said, you know, village administrator said, our village president said that today.
Agreeing with what we're discussing, yeah. So, from my perspective as chair, unless there is, liability, legal liability on our part to fix it, then, this is a resident's responsibility to fix it, and they can fix it or they don't have to fix it.
The only thing that was brought up today, actually I discussed, well, actually Melissa, our village clerk brought it up, was, should the village attorney just look at any kind of legal things as far as the project to make sure there is nothing that, since the village put it in. they can-
I would say that's appropriate due diligence.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not gonna cost us anything, because
He's on a retainer.
Yeah, Yeah, but I think the initial response, Mark, is barring any legal implications from council, it's not gonna be on the village's dime to fix it. If it was this, I could clearly, we would have a responsibility to
Yeah,
maintain.
within the road right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that one might fall down tomorrow, but,
And that is the second part of this, because if you look at those pictures of that, especially this wall, you can see that due to salt and everything else.
yeah, no, I
Top
saw that.
blocks and these are all starting to back, you're also starting to lose centers.
Yep.
So there is some, at certain times, the village will be fixing those
Yeah.
angles
Yep.
along that.
But those, again, I looked at those walls too. I guess we're going to the next item. The walls look pretty sound, but the deterioration is the top cap.
Yeah. But there's some places you got voids and blocks, center part walls.
Yeah, but it looks to me like at some point, we can replace that top cap on the existing wall.
Yeah, and there's some places where maybe contractors come in and just punch out other places that are bad
Yeah.
and fill in.
Yeah.
But I just thought something to talk about. We looked at the other ones, stuck together.
Yeah, there is some, clearly some
So then,
deterioration.
the action here is to have council look, see if we have legal obligations to fix the other side of the driveway.
Mhm.
And if the answer is no, then, I hate to say it, but if it's not the village's responsibility, we shouldn't be fixing it. Right? We might incur additional legal, right, responsibilities
Well,
if we were to actually. go
Other
do it.
residents in the village may say,
Say,
hey, wait a
"Hey,
minute,
right."
I've got something you ought to fix too.
Got a tree that needs to be planted, or, yeah, no. Okay. Any more discussion on, the collapse of the wall or the deterioration of the blocks?
No.
No.
You're not recommending, Mark, that we do anything immediately on the walls in that block. You're just bringing it to our
I'm just bringing it to
attention.
your attention
Yeah.
that they are gonna
I
be,
did look at them, just in preparation for this. There is deterioration, but it's the top row.
All right, item number 8, engineers report.
All right, so one thing I wanted to bring, the committee, do you remember we applied for the STP
Yep.
urban for the Wisconsin Street project? Actually, the approved list came out, just within the last couple of days here. And as you can see, it looks like the village was successful in securing both the design and the construction for the project. And out of the northwest region, there was only one other project that was awarded, and that was in the city of Menominee, so. So it looks like, that's on a positive end. Project-wise, funding, construction, they fund 80% of the construction cost. That would be for all the storm sewer and the surface items, curb and gutter, sidewalk, all those things. Obviously, the sewer and water is non-participating, that's 100%
Yep.
village cost.
Is this still, we're looking at 2019 abouts?
Yeah, we actually, when we applied for this, we looked at, the design that would obviously move forward first. Fiscal year 2016. And again, that's gonna be cost shared. There was a request of $79,000 for all that. That'll be 80-20 split on that part. So 20% would be village share and the state would pick up the remaining of that. And then the construction, would be in fiscal year 2020.
2020,
So
yeah.
that's, because by the time you go through all the design part, whenever you get into the DOT portion, there's obviously a lot more involvement, different reports that have to go along with it. So there's a long lead time of going through that whole process before you would be allowed to do the construction part of it.
Yep.
That's why it lags that 4 years. So, but, overall. I think
Once it's approved, is it locked in?
Yep.
The state can't come back and say, oh,
The only,
budget issues, we're not gonna do it.
yeah.
We don't have to do it, but
Right,
it
right.
won't be taken away from
Yeah,
us.
it won't be taken away. Unless, for some reason, the design is really lagging, it's getting towards that, construction time that you need to get things done. And that's what happened with the first round. We ended up taking that back. And then that's where we reapplied for the design and
For the sake
construction.
of clarity, what exactly, and then for anybody that might actually watch these meetings, what exactly is gonna be done?
Total reconstruct of that section from Third to Sixth Street.
Okay,
Sewer, water, storm sewer, curb and gutter, sidewalks.
so it's
we'll have-
only Third Street
yeah,
up
only,
to Sixth.
yep, from Third to Sixth.
Yep.
Yep, that stretch through.
It's
there.
not Six.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep, that would be, discussion is, the state would be looking at redoing that portion. They're looking around that 2020 period mark. So.
Yep. Yeah, well, good.
Yeah, so, that's always what we've been looking for is, design and construction portion being funded, that the village.
So did you
would-
do Menominees as well?
We did.
Yeah, you guys are located down there, right?
Yep, that's where we're based
Pretty
out
much
of, so.
have to do it.
So they got, the construction portion of that project too, so.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Director's report.
Only thing I have is, as you know, we are still accepting applications for the open public works position. The deadline for that is at 4 o'clock this coming Friday. Currently, we have about 10 to 12 applicants received. Right now, after meeting with the village administrator at the December board meeting, basically, I'm gonna have a request to have it approved that I can hire basically sometime around the first or second weekend, or second week of December. So, that would give me a little bit of time to do interviews.
And I will leave it up to you if you want me in those interviews this time or not. Future agenda items?
I do have one that I would like to discuss at some point in the future. It doesn't have an immediacy component to it because the fall street sweeping has been done. But I had some conversation with the operator of the street sweeping equipment one day when he was filling at the hydrant right across the intersection from me on the issue of residents that blow their leaves off their yards out into the driveway, or I mean into the street.
Yep.
I'm not talking about just on the boulevard where they might be blowing them, but literally blowing all their leaves out there. That's a situation where the rest of the taxpayers in the village are going through the cost and the effort of the street sweeper cleaning up all that mess. I don't have an obvious solution, but I would like to discuss that and talk about it in advance of next year when the issue comes up again. He did allow that it is not everybody obviously that does that, but there are some residents that when they come to those places, they've got mounds and piles of leaves and stuff that they have to try and pick up with that street sweeper. So
My wife makes me go.
I'd like to talk about it in advance of next year.
I personally don't worry about leaves.
That's why we,
just don't.
basically, that's why we stopped advertising, we stopped notifying people, we used to always do it, we'd always tell them which week the street sweeper's gonna be here. We stopped doing that, just because there's times we'd show up, maybe you drive the weekend before, there wouldn't be any leaves, and the week the sweeper's here, all of a sudden, that Monday, every street.
Right, the street is full of leaves, so.
So there's this wonderful thing called mulching.
Do that,
Is there something in our laws that say they're not supposed to do that?
but you can't deposit snow on the streets, it's against the village ordinance.
Yeah, who's enforcing it though?
Okay.
A dog with a bone, I'm sorry, guys. Any other future items? So, obviously, we're gonna need to put parking winter ordinances on. That's gonna be probably a long-term discussion. All right. Item number 11, adjournment at 7:10 PM.